In Avengers Secret Wars, we're expecting to see way more mutants than what we got in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. After the events of Secret Wars and Doomsday, the MCU is gearing up for a soft reboot, starting fresh with Phase 7, and that might just kick off a whole new mutant saga. Kevin Feige recently spoke with Variety, and while he didn't spill too many details, he confirmed that they've been dropping hints about mutants for a while now. He mentioned that some characters already have the mutant gene, but they're waiting for the right time to dive in. What's even more exciting is that the X-Men movie is picking up steam, with the writer of The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, attached to the script. It's about time to get hyped for some of the most anticipated X-Men movies fans want in 2025, 26, and 27. So, here are some that we know of. Cyclops. One of the X-Men characters that Marvel Studios really needs to nail is Cyclops in the mutant saga. Scott Summers is known as the field leader of the team, but both James Marsden and Ty Sheridan's portrayals didn't give much depth to the character. Thankfully, Marvel Studios' X-Men 97 delivered the best version of Cyclops in years, showing that Marvel president Kevin Feige knows how to handle this hero. As the field leader, Cyclops is crucial to the franchise and has the potential to anchor a solo movie. The Summers family is filled with complex dynamics, from Scott's rocky relationship with his father to his complicated bond with his brothers. A solo Cyclops movie could dive deep into these themes. Now, you might wonder why a Cyclops movie should kick off the mutant saga. Look at how MCU Phase 1 began with solo films like Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, and Thor leading up to the Avengers. It makes sense for the MCU to introduce characters individually, rather than cramming a bunch of mutants into one film without exploring their backstories. A Cyclops movie would lay a strong foundation for the saga ahead. Plus, it would be a fresh start for the MCU, especially after the old dynamics with Wolverine and Professor X. This approach aligns with the comic book roots and could resonate well with fans. Gambit. Next up, we think the second movie should focus on Remy LeBeau, aka Gambit, which is a popular request as we kick off the MCU's mutant saga. Instead of rehashing the same old storylines with Wolverine and Rogue getting caught up in conflicts between Charles Xavier's X-Men and Magneto's Brotherhood of Mutants, like Fox did, it's time for something new. Gambit has shot to the top of fans' wish lists for a Marvel Studios film, especially after the amazing support for Channing Tatum's portrayal of him in Deadpool and Wolverine. Tatum was originally cast as Remy LeBeau a decade ago, but his solo movie got stuck in development hell and ultimately got cancelled. Luckily, Ryan Reynolds and Marvel made it happen for him to play Gambit in Deadpool and Wolverine, where he quickly became a fan favorite. Tatum has hinted at discussions for a Gambit solo film, which was initially meant to be a love story. The MCU could easily build on that for the X-Men reboot, diving into Gambit's backstory and eventually bringing Rogue in for a sequel. Keeping Gambit as the second movie in the mutant saga would really serve MCU fans well, especially considering how Fox handled the character. Taylor Kitsch's Gambit didn't have much of a backstory, unlike in the comics, where we get to know him much better, like in Gambit #1. This was the first time we see Remy as a standalone character, and as writer Guggenheim puts it, he's a slightly more morally compromised Han Solo. And let's not forget about Gambit's relationship with Rogue. There's something incredibly poignant about loving someone you can't have a physical relationship with due to Rogue's powers, which let her absorb memories and abilities through touch, but prolonged contact can be harmful. Despite his cocky confidence, Gambit's advances often meet a cold poker face from Rogue. But you've got to admire his determination. There's definitely a spark between them, and that tension could lead to some seriously compelling storytelling. Jean Grey. Jean Grey is one of the most vital members of the X-Men, both in the comics and in other media. Her most significant storyline, the Dark Phoenix saga, has been mishandled twice in live action, which is quite a feat in itself. While the MCU might steer clear of retelling that story in an X-Men movie, a solo trilogy could be just what the event needs to finally get it right. Both X-Men The Last Stand and X-Men Dark Phoenix tried to adapt the Dark Phoenix saga but fell short. A series of films centered around Jean Grey could explore the Phoenix Force, the Shi'ar Empire, the Hellfire Club, and much more, finally doing justice to this iconic story. By giving Jean her own franchise, Marvel would also set the MCU apart from the Fox X-Men universe, where Wolverine often overshadowed everyone else. This approach would let Jean take the spotlight and truly showcase her incredible power and depth as a character. Rogue. After seeing the romantic dynamic between Gambit and Rogue in the Gambit movie, it could be the perfect time for the MCU to shine a light on Anna Marie's tragic past and unique powers. Marvel Studios has already released projects that focus on iconic mutant teams, like Disney Plus's X-Men '97, which brilliantly brought classic comic stories to life for both longtime fans and newcomers. Rogue really stood out in that series, playing a major role and proving that Marvel can handle her character much better than the Fox X-Men movies ever did. In X-Men '97, Rogue served as the emotional core, and she could play a similar role in the live-action X-Men reboot. Before the movie hits theaters, a solo Rogue film could explore her heartbreaking backstory with her parents, her ties to Magneto, and much more. Subsequent films could then dive into her powers and how they impact her personal life, giving fans a deeper understanding of this complex character. Psylocke. As we have talked about, the Brian Braddock tease in Avengers Endgame could introduce Psylocke into the MCU and set up the Captain Britain Corps for the X-Men's arrival. There's even potential for a Psylocke solo movie. Plus, the MCU's casting choices for mutants could fix a missed opportunity from the Fox X-Men franchise. For those who don't know about the Brian Braddock tease in Avengers Endgame, here's the scoop. During the scene where Steve Rogers and Tony Stark go back to S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Camp Lehigh in 1970, Steve overhears Peggy Carter saying, "Braddock hasn't checked in recently." This could be a nod to Brian Braddock, aka Captain Britain, existing in the MCU. In the comics, Braddock becomes Captain Britain after a motorcycle accident, which might explain his radio silence. This teasing reference hints at Brian's arrival as Captain Britain, paving the way for a broader introduction of the Captain Britain Corps, a group dedicated to protecting the multiverse. With the MCU's ongoing exploration of multiversal themes, the Captain Britain Corps could easily fit into this narrative, introducing new characters like Betsy Braddock, aka Psylocke. In the comics, Psylocke has a rich and complex history, especially regarding her transformation from Betsy Braddock to the formidable mutant we know today. She initially had telepathic abilities, but became even more lethal when she gained martial skills and psychic weapons after a body swap with the assassin Quanon. This intriguing backstory offers the MCU a perfect opportunity to develop a character who has often been sidelined or misrepresented in previous adaptations. The Captain Britain Corps and Psylocke's connection to Brian Braddock open doors for both character development and world building. With her ties to the multiverse and the British superhero legacy, Psylocke could serve as a bridge between Earth and the wider universe. Imagine a narrative where Betsy discovers her true lineage, grappling with her identity and powers while navigating her brother's legacy as Captain Britain. A Psylocke solo movie could explore these themes deeply. It could also delve into her relationship with the Hellfire Club, the Shi'ar Empire, and even her connections to the X-Men, showcasing how her past influences her future as a hero. Such a narrative could juxtapose her darker history with her evolution into a hero, providing fans with a compelling and nuanced portrayal. Additionally, the MCU's exploration of the multiverse could lead to various versions of Psylocke appearing, giving fans a chance to see different facets of her character. This could include interactions with alternate versions of established characters or new allies, thereby enriching the narrative and character dynamics within the broader MCU. Another significant aspect to consider is casting. Recent discussions have pointed to Anna Sawai as a potential choice for the role of Quanon. Her Japanese heritage aligns perfectly with the character's roots, and she could bring a fresh perspective to Psylocke's story. With her strong acting chops showcased in projects like Shogun, she could portray the complexity of a character like Psylocke, who has battled internal and external demons throughout her life. As for the Captain Britain Corps, its introduction would not only elevate Brian Braddock's character, but also create opportunities for other heroes to emerge, establishing a robust foundation for the X-Men in the MCU. With their core mission focused on safeguarding the multiverse, the Corps could play a pivotal role in future MCU arcs, especially in the anticipated battles against multiversal threats. Beast. Beast has had his moment in the spotlight with the Fox X-Men movies, and guess what? He's already popped up in the MCU too. Kelsey Grammer reprised his role as Beast in the Marvels, which hints that we might see him in some future multiverse saga projects, or maybe even in the upcoming X-Men reboot. Before Marvel Studios snagged the X-Men movie rights when Disney bought Fox, there was actually a solo movie planned for Beast called X-Men Fear the Beast. This film was supposed to follow Nicholas Holt's version of Beast as he took on the villain Wendigo, with a little help from Wolverine. It would have been a pretty exciting ride, especially with a serum that could transform him into a more powerful Mega Beast. Who knows? The MCU might take some inspiration from that story to really expand Beast's character arc. Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler hasn't had much screen time in live action, but Kurt Wagner has a treasure trove of fascinating storylines in the comics that could make for a gripping solo film in the MCU. There's so much potential here. Nightcrawler is one of the X-Men's most compassionate members, has visually stunning powers, and his unique design could lead to a powerful narrative about facing persecution in the MCU. While Fox's X-Men franchise played a big role in shaping modern superhero movies, its complicated timelines and spin-offs can get pretty messy. Imagine a Nightcrawler solo movie that explores two different time periods. It could dive into Kurt's circus roots, the tragic incident where he accidentally killed his adoptive brother, and how his demonic appearance leads to him being hunted. This film could take a darker turn than your typical MCU flick, focusing on more psychological themes. An R rating could open the door for Marvel to tell a more mature story, featuring intense and bloody battles that showcase Nightcrawler's powers in all their glory. Bishop. Bishop is a mutant who could really shake things up in the MCU by bringing a fresh perspective. Why? Because he hails from the future. In Marvel Comics, Bishop was born in the 21st century, in a grim alternate timeline where mutants face even harsher realities than in the current X-Men comics. He grew up in a concentration camp, which definitely adds some depth to his character. Eventually, Bishop finds his way into the present and becomes a member of the X-Men. But so far, he hasn't really made much of an impact in live action, and there's a ton of potential in his story just waiting to be explored. A solo movie for Bishop could be an exciting way to dive into a possible future for the MCU after the X-Men team is established, serving as a bridge between the first X-Men film and any sequels that follow. Wolverine. When it comes to the X-Men, Wolverine is the character that truly deserves a solo movie. Hugh Jackman's portrayal has already given us a trilogy and plenty of appearances in X-Men flicks and Deadpool and Wolverine, but his popularity is still off the charts. As the most iconic mutant, a Wolverine solo film could kick off a whole new franchise for the MCU. There are two exciting directions this could go. Either Jackman continues his legendary run as Wolverine, possibly teaming up with Daphne Keene's X-23 for some thrilling adventures, or Marvel could take the opportunity to introduce a new actor in the role, setting the stage for a fresh take on Logan. Giving Wolverine his own franchise would not only meet fan expectations for this beloved character, but also allow the X-Men films to focus more on ensemble dynamics, ensuring every member of the team gets their time to shine during their missions. Even though Marvel's X-Men movie is likely a few years away, Kevin Feige is spot on about how the MCU has already been planting the seeds for the X-Men and the concept of mutants in general. The continuous nods to X-Men, the animated series, have definitely caught fans' attention, especially with the iconic theme song popping up multiple times. Plus, Sir Patrick Stewart's Professor X in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness seems to draw inspiration from that animated classic. We've also seen some mutants start to make their way into the MCU, setting up for a larger exploration of these characters in future projects. Ms. Marvel was a game-changer, revealing that Kamala Khan is a mutant, a shift now reflected in the comics where she's a mutant in human hybrid. Another recent addition is Namor, introduced in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, who also established his mutant roots. It wouldn't be surprising if other well-known MCU characters turn out to be mutants instead of just enhanced beings. After the multiverse saga, it makes sense for the mutant storyline to take center stage once the MCU wraps up its focus on alternate realities. With Feige's recent comments about the X-Men, there's plenty to be excited about for the future of the MCU. Colossus. Colossus, introduced in Giant Size X-Men #1, embodies the struggle between personal desire and heroic responsibility, making him a perfect fit for the MCU's exploration of mutants. With the ongoing development of the mutant saga, a standalone Colossus film could delve into his backstory as Pyotr Nikolaevich Rasputin, a Russian farmer whose transformation into organic steel propels him into the world of the X-Men. This journey not only showcases his immense physical strength, but also highlights his inner conflict, torn between the simple life he cherishes and the hero he is destined to become. Colossus's emotional depth is enriched by his complex relationship with Kitty Pryde, an enduring love story that can resonate with audiences. Their bond, tested by the tumultuous nature of mutant life, presents an opportunity to explore themes of sacrifice and connection amidst chaos. This narrative could provide a heartfelt anchor in a larger saga, positioning Colossus not just as a powerhouse, but a symbol of love and resilience. Additionally, the introduction of Colossus in the multiverse, potentially through What If, can lay the groundwork for his full entry into the MCU. This approach allows for creative storytelling that can redefine his character in new and unexpected ways, setting up a robust foundation for his standalone film. As Marvel continues to plant the seeds for the X-Men, Colossus stands out as a character rich in narrative potential. His journey from a humble farm in Siberia to a key player in the X-Men saga not only captivates fans, but also positions him as a vital component in the evolving landscape of the MCU's mutant narrative. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments below. What character do you think deserves a solo movie in the MCU, and why? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay in the loop. If you want, you can share your thoughts about this video in the comments.